Great question. I couldn't have planted a better question, could I? I said I wasn't going to talk about raising money, but now someone has raised it. So what can I do? Let me tell you how you can support the work of Caritas. Firstly, thanks for your question. And I love that the question was asked by one of the younger members in our audience. Look, my first answer is we can't do what we do at Caritas Australia without money. You know, it costs money to be able to go out and to serve these communities. So I always appreciate anyone who wants to give a donation because I know that the money will be used well. You can fundraise for Caritas Australia. You can visit our website, caritasaustralia.org.au. Have a bit of a look around there and see the different ways that you can give and the ways that you can contribute and support our work. It's really exciting part of my job is that I get to meet communities throughout Australia and hear the crazy and very inventive ways that people raise money for us. And so you'll see on there a lot of great stories. I would also say, though, I do really encourage you just to go on the website and have a read, because I think part of what we're called to do is to be a witness to the stories of these people and their lives, and to be aware of what's happening and to try and spread the word and to share your prayers for these people. So, your support is welcome. Thank you. I guess I'll just answer the question from lived experience and from the interactions that I've had the privilege of being part of over the last couple of decades. And first say that I don't think we can compartmentalise this. This is not about what's happening in Australia versus what's happening in the rest of the world. This is not about sort of looking at women's equality and trying to say it's a little bit better here, it's worse there, or whatever else. I do think we need to look at it holistically. I do think it's worth, and that's why today I wanted to explain a little bit about the experience I've had as a woman being a leader in the Catholic Church, and then the stories of the women overseas, because I do think that this is one narrative, and that as a church we have to acknowledge that spectrum of women's experiences, and actually, as the world and the community more broadly, we need to do that. It's easier, I think, sometimes to say, I only work overseas, so I'll look at this narrative. But I do think it's really important for us here in Australia to focus on what's happening in our backyards as well as look elsewhere. In my family, we used to put money in the Project Compassion box if you swore. So it's interesting because in a way that taught me empathy. So it is really interesting, right, that journey from we don't just want people to give money. We want, and we hope, I think, for more than that. We do want to transform people. We do want them to have their hearts and minds, transformed by the lived experience of people overseas. So I think it's a good comment. My first answer is you have such a privileged job working with young people, because my experience is when I go to schools, I get inspired by the young people, by their enthusiasm often for Caritas. And whenever I feel like I'm having a bit of a hard time at Caritas, I do often go to a school to speak, because I quite like that interaction with young people who do still, think that they can change the world and have an influence. But when I do go to schools, I say two things. One is you first need to know that your money can make a difference. And if there's anything I can do, that is something that I really do want to assure people, because it's really important that people know that money does make a difference overseas. But secondly, I think the second point is we are one human community. We have to understand that we are interconnected, and maybe COVID helped with this. An idea of what happens over there affects us here. And for me, the best way I've found is through storytelling, is through telling, experiences of people that I've met. And for us, increasingly at Caritas, it's where possible, trying to get people from these countries and from our partners on Zoom so they can actually tell their story for themselves. And so that people, and particularly school children, can hear literally from, villages in Africa or in Southeast Asia about what's happening. That said, I think it's an internal, conversion, and it's about meeting each person where they're at. So I don't have a magic bullet. All I know is I was that kid once, right? That 15-year-old kid hearing the story. I still remember the woman who came to speak about Project Compassion in my school. And so, I don't know, you plant a seed and you hope one day it'll blossom. Firstly, a really good comment. Advocacy is a really important part of the work that we do at Caritas, and I think, I hope for the church more broadly. For me, we need to address the structural issues that are causing inequality, as well as the work that we do on the ground. In answering your question, for us at Caritas, we spend a lot of time discerning how we can best use the funds that we are given each year. Our first criteria is that we choose to serve the poorest of the poor. We choose as an organisation to be where other organisations choose not to go, because it's far away for the main road. Marley's story is a good example. We were driving on the road to get there, and we saw various other NGO signs, and then we turned and we saw a few other church signs, and then we got on to the 18 kilometres of the dry riverbed, and then we got to where the Catholic Church was working. And so that is, I think, the first criteria for us. We choose to serve the poorest of the poor. The second criteria for us around where we work is where do we think that our money can help the most amount of people. And that is often a really difficult process. Each year we get hundreds, or if not thousands, of people all around the world, of organisations all around the world asking for our support, and obviously we can't support them all. And so it is quite a process, but we do look and think about where we can have the biggest impact in terms of the numbers of people that we can help. And I think finally, we do think about what people here in Australia want to support. So what people here in Australia are interested in, and what sparks, enthusiasm and joy for them. Because, Caritas's work is about people overseas, but it is, as the lady before was saying, about transforming hearts and minds here in Australia as well. And so we like to choose projects that we think people here will be transformed by.